Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you guys are. I hope you have a fantastic day. It's Olsen here, and we're going to do another breakdown of my most recent Plat Push arena. For those of you guys that don't know, every year we have a Plat Push session that comes up where it resets. I don't know if you guys see me highlighting it over the camera there, but at the bottom left, they tell you how much time on a weekly basis is going to be left before the reset. And basically, at the end of that reset, wherever you place at is going to be your position within the total structure of the game. So, like, if you want to place very high, you have to be pretty active all the way up to the very end. So, a lot of what I wanted to do today was to mix it up a little bit. We had some really fun experience with Gallius. He showed a lot of potential, a lot of promise. And although my blessing still hasn't made any significant changes, it has gotten to a point now where we've given him a little bit more love so that he could be a little bit more effective. We made some adjustments along the way to make sure that everybody's experience was a little bit better. So, with this being said, I wanted to bring the Gallius, the Coxus Maximus back, but I also wanted to bring someone else that is also fairly familiar with him in terms of his affinity, which was Embrys. Embrys was someone that I wanted to bring into the light a little bit more. I had a 5-star blessing for him, so I was like, you know what? Let's try to see if we can make him work. Now, there were some some gaps and some hiccups along the way that I did experience as I got into some of the more harder competitive fights. But overall, you can kind of see it right off the rip. Like one of my first fights there, automatically, I started off with getting a very, very positive experience with Gallius because like I was able to use him into areas like the Seek Front fight, where, you know, his passive incorporates block damage. So Gallius did very, very well. And then Embrys being a preliminary setup champion for the team, getting the team basically access to the enemy's HP a lot more earlier by being able to just completely remove the stone skin, as you see there, made some of the fights a little bit faster, a little bit more quicker, and a little bit more active early on. So I basically start the fight pretty engaging, pretty aggro. Now, the way this composition is designed is to basically give access to the champion pool, the enemy's champion pool's HP. Try to start basically pressuring them into kills, deaths, the whole 9 yards, as you obviously see here. And then from there, if there's any passes of the more commonly used champions for resets or defenses, such as Mariska, who has block damage in her passive, as well as Nais, who could do it in his second form, we have Gallius to kind of finish up the fight. Or apply even more pressure at the very least. Embrys has actually kind of surprised me a bit more in this regard because he went from just being like a complimentary stone skin remover to like also complementary damage. So it's a follow-up in addition to that. So if you're lacking in the champions such as like Embrys, or not Embrys, but Fabian, or maybe that Crixia that you don't have, or insert a champion that does like basically buff removal, he can facilitate that role, but he also can facilitate being a damage dealer, as you see here at the end of that fight. So he's like kind of like a multi-purpose champion. Not to mention being able to get crazy value out of his necrosis, which is also complementary damage in addition to his complementary damage, made it a lot more like, yo, I can use that to my advantage. So there's actually going to be some fights, and I'm going to try to see if I can skip around a little bit as we get more into the higher ones. Oh, I got lost there. There's some interesting defense. We'll come back to that one in a bit. But for example, using like necrosis with the extra turns that he gets on his base form A2 into his flipping and just kind of acquiring more uses or more applications of triggers for that how do you say it? For that necrosis, kind of gave us a little bit more extra damage just before we wound up for the big hits and whatnot. I thought that was really cool. Another reason why I kind of tried to design that team in mind, with the help of some of my clanmates, salutes to the homie Vanya. I picked his brain. But yeah, we basically kind of went in mind with like, I want to be able to get through block damage. We had a recent event with Niame, and she was able to get into the fight. Get into a lot of these team structures, which is, it makes sense, right? She's a very strong and prominent champion. So trying to work our way around block damage was kind of like the trick, right? So utilizing these champions was basically my big focus, and I wanted to make sure that we had an answer for Niame comps. We wanted to have an answer for Siegfried comps. We wanted to have an answer for general, not, you know, just basically all the block damage champions that you can find. I wanted to make sure I had something for it. So as I get up a lot more in some of the higher fights, you'll see especially towards the end of this, I think I want to say, it starts to pick up, it starts to slow down. Even at certain points too, I kind of highlight it right there. I don't know if you can see it just for a brief moment. Let's double check there, right there. I I was basically already at like in the upper 20s fighting at this point. It's only 15 minutes in with 36 minutes left. So there's I was able to kind of get to where I wanted to be at in terms of like fighting and being able to do some stuff and you know, comms and pretty much just in general just looking at options that I could fight. My first initial thought was, let me try to attack more aggressive teams. So you see me like, even despite being in my comfort level, I'm like, okay, I see a +4, a +3, and a +2 on this team. I'm gonna hit it, and whether or not I'm successful or not was kind of beyond the point. My point for this like part of being this high early up was that I wanted to make sure that once I started getting into these higher tier fights, I want to make sure I was ready to be able to get active sooner rather than later. And like, for example, you see here we had like a big hiccup, and this is something I wanted to kind of highlight that I want you guys to see. What's interesting about this is looking at their team's defense, right? They had the only thing that I could note that actually kind of made some sense here was that they had a Siegfried that had a temporal chain, right? So the way my team is speed tuned is supposed to be Shuzen into Embrys into Marius into Gallius. That's the way that the order of operations should go with the way my stuff is speed tuned. I think even with the temporal chains and the way that it's set up, these guys should not have been triggering or pushing themselves into a place where they lose like turn meter. So yeah, I have stone scan pretty much on everyone except for Shuzen. So like I would argue that like in terms of turn meter manipulation, there shouldn't be anything here that would cause a trigger to happen for people to lose their priority. But you notice here in this speed tune, Marius has the opportunity to go first as a result of it. And I wonder maybe a trigger of him getting that counterattack caused him to get more HP back. I mean, I did kill or hit the Siegfried for over 50% or 25% of his HP there. So I'd have to check a mastery perhaps, but so I double checked the fight here. We're gonna watch it from the beginning again so you can kind of see a little bit better what happened. I boost into the team with my shoes in, and the next thing you know, instead of Embrys, it's Marius that gets his turn first, which is a little unfortunate. I double checked his build just to make sure there was no masteries, no blessings or relics that would cause me to gain speed. And I ended up having the Marius and the Embrys kind of shift places in terms of position priority, and that's kind of weird. Considering that I had like almost over like 10 points of speed, an advantage of Embrys kind of being ahead, you know, in terms of speed rangers. So it's very interesting to see that kind of circumstance happen. And I'm going to lean it towards you guys. You guys can let me know if there's anything that you guys feel would be the answer to why that's happening. Yeah, I had that happen on multiple occasions where I ended up having to deal with, the overall output of the team or the position of the team kind of go a little bit there. Would have made a difference? I think possibly. Not having the opportunity to maybe even try to strip the Marishka was more so kind of like a overall that it's protected from the block or from the lightning cage, so that's fine. But normally you see right there, like I get my chance to use Embrys first, and then I'm coming afterwards with Marius, and then eventually coming up through with Gallius here. So very, very interesting to see that the opportunity to be able to use that is weird that it happened the way that it happened, right? But this is kind of where I was talking about the application of necrosis. You saw that she got a heal. And that was from the passive of Theodosia here. So she's really, really low. So I was thinking, okay, I see necrosis stacks. Maybe I could go and flip forms and basically get a kill on the Marishka. Now, I'm aware of how my Embrys is built, so I want to make sure that the opportunity to maybe get a block revive is very, very likely. So the idea behind that, when I saw this Highness Protection proc, I was like, okay, she got a heal. I need to make sure I do it. And I don't know if you noticed right here, if you pay attention to like my item, like my ability selection, just before I go and do anything, I was originally going to change forms, but then I saw that her health got up, and I was like, okay, she has to cross the stacks. Let me go ahead and do the extra turn there. She took like 10k, almost 10k times 2, and then I got my extra turn there. I did the A3 for the extra damage, and then I A2 or A1s for the double tap, so she had necrosis, and that caused a complete kill, right? Now, the reason why I did this is that if I didn't do that for her, and I didn't kill her there, she would have went to revive the rest of the team there, and they would have had unkillable. And that's something that I use my Marius's buff strip. I use basically all the buff strip I had available. That they would have been free to get what they needed to do done. So I was like, okay, I need to make sure I secure this kill, which we were able to do. And then after that, they got the revive. And because she's blocked revive, the AI for the Theodosa seemed to be set up so that they would try to revive first. There, I guess, no cleanses, so they went immediately into flipping to get offensive. And at that point, you know, we already kind of did most of the work there. So my Galleys kind of wrapped up the fight at the end there, and you saw that we got the win. So some pretty interesting fights that I saw there so far. I thought that was really, really cool. I did have to, like, slow it down. I noticed I was, like, 42, 45, which is kind of on the upper end side of things, and I see a lot more of my clannies now, so I'm like, okay, we need to be a little bit more strategic with our approach. Slow it down, Soul. So if you notice here, like, I'm kind of just looking at the screen for a little bit. I'm actually on the side chatting with folks, and maybe at one point or another, I kind of, like, started getting active again, start checking out some more offenses or defense that started hitting, and I was like, okay, another Niame, let's see if we can make some pressure here. And there are some ones where it's just like I kind of came up unlucky, and I wish I had a better blessing for Galleys. I think it would have been the overall consensus, and you're gonna see it here. So, like, for example, I did the A2 for Marius here after buffing because I wanted to give my Galleus a increased defense and then flip. I ended up doing it anyways, and I'm going to chalk that up to sleep yet again. Thankfully, we didn't get enfeebled there, so I did the A3. But you notice how the Marius didn't die there, and I'm going to attribute that to just the damage output that I was able to do. It sucks to say, but I feel like I should have been able to kill him there, and I didn't. So that kind of put me in this position where it's like, okay, well, now I have to make it through them surviving, and it looks I'm already kind of in an uphill battle, and then I lose this fight. So I was like, yeah, that's not good. My gut was like, you know what? Let me hit them again. And I decided to change it up. I was like, you know, let me try going with a more developed option, which was my Gizmac this time. I noticed that the Embrys was the only one with a immunity on his build. So I was like, okay, I could strip it with stock guarantee, so that's no longer an RNG play. And now I could play towards two champions that can maybe decisively take care of this team. So not flipping at the beginning of that of Gizmac's turn or not buffing at the beginning of Gizmac's turn, so that I can retain the stone skin. Right, flip. He's going to do his counterattack because I flipped, which means that I'm going to ignore any enfeeblement, and I get my hit right off the rip. So, thankfully, and it's obvious that a +4 is going to probably do a little bit more than a +0, let alone someone who has a 5-star compared to a 1-star. There's obvious advantages to using my Gizmac. So I was like, you know what, let me lean towards him and see if we got it. And that kind of helped me out quite a bit there. So I was like, okay, I got him. Now, there's no point in me doing any A1s or any A2s if I had the reset from my Gizmac after I do the initial damage, which I'll show you guys here in just a moment. I decided, I was like, you know what? Since I don't have a way to get through the block damage because he has no whatchamacallit, I'm going to go ahead and do the A3 there for the pain leak. That'll protect my team, but also force him to hit into the Gizmac, which means he'll do damage to himself. So I was like, okay, I'm going to just go ahead and just do my A2 there to give me counterattacks and kind of play into the fact that he's going to be doing damage to me, right? And that's what ended up happening right there. And we successfully cleared the fight. So the first one was being a little bit of like bad RNG, some maybe the build wasn't enough in terms of Galleys being able to slam that on his own. I think as we develop that champion more and more, it'll get to a point where that should be less of a problem. And that's the excuse I'm going to go with for now. But with that being said, going into this next fight, I saw that they had an Ashnar. Obviously, the Gizmac comp would not be well into that. So we went back to Embrys in that fight, and boom, we got a really great start. I didn't want to buff right off the rip, and I'm not sure exactly why. I should have buffed since I got to the turn of the Marius there, and I think that messed me up. Maybe I was worried about the polymorph there. I did give the A3 to the Galleus, but I feel like I could have A3 there to give everybody the revive on death. So kind of a little bit of a mistranslation there. I was debating on whether or not I wanted to try to see if I get a lock on one or the other, because he's going to be able to flip and do damage, and the other one could lock us out, which would also be problematic. So I ended up taking the gamble on the Crixia, which ended up costing me a little bit. So we made it through. We got lucky again with another lockout. Pretty fast on the shoes and was able to get me there. I did the health swat there, and I did the A2, which was good enough for everybody to take enough damage, and they gave me the fight. A little bit closer for my liking, but we got through it, so not too bad. I saw some familiar names like Bad. He's used to be Mad Lad at one point or another, so it was like really cool to see him in action again. He had a pretty high block damage comp. I wanted to see if maybe I could hit him, but I was like, okay, let me try to go for more strategic fights that are more likely for me to be effective in. So I'm just kind of browsing around, is what you see a lot of it is. See some of my clan leaders, I see my clan leader there, and I'm like, okay, all right, I'm in this territory now where we're starting to feel a little bit more. This is the top hit of arena. So like now it's like, okay, we're looking to find our answers, but we want to do it smartly. So I'm kind of browsing around. Let's see what we got here. I want to take a picture or like get like some insight as to like what we're looking at. So I'm browsing. I'm literally browsing like, okay, well, at that point when I saw that, I was like, I'm slowing down, but I'm doing it for the sake of being a lot more effective. So, or consistent. We need to get consistent victories. And one of my downfalls is that even when I'm pushing, even all the way up to the high end, I start hitting some folks and I start losing some fights. And it's like, you know what? This tempo needs to change. This is me kind of giving myself feedback on, you know what? This is what I've done so far. This is where I've had successes, and this is where I started failing. So like, okay, let's slow it down. My first initial thought was I could just start hitting some targets. I was like, no, that's not the play. We had 27 minutes left at the time of this recording. So I was like, you know what? Let me take a little bit of a breather here. And I kid you not, at one point or another, I was like, all right, I'm going to stop the recording for a brief moment, and then I'm going to come back in about like a minute or two, or maybe something around those lines. So to switch it over, I would say we had another minute left, so it's about 5 minutes in between this recording and that recording. I didn't do anything else. You saw the same defense there, right? I decided, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and refresh the page. We're going to look for targets that we feel like we could be effective at hitting. Like I said, play smarter instead of just trying to be super fast, right? So I was like, okay, let's check this guy out, and we're going to start pressuring in that direction. So lo and behold, I looked at their blessings, and I saw no lightning cages. I saw no polymorphs. So I was like, okay, let's start using the Gizmac side of things. And that ended up turning into seeing this. I was like, okay, shoot, this guy has like no stone skin. Besides the Nell. Now, Nell is the one we do want to get rid of pretty early on. So I didn't buff because they had the Marius. So I immediately flipped, did the A2, pretty much cleared the entire team, did another A1, but his passive proc or something that prevented him to do the last little bit, no problem. We were pretty close to him dying. So I flipped over with the Gallius to finish off the fight. So it worked out in favor of me being able to kind of like pinpoint that target. I was like, okay, we're on a stride here. We got a little bit of a victory. I'm seeing the targets that look like they're feasible for me to hit with what I had prepared. I was like, okay, cool. We're on the right track so far. 21 minutes left and running. I take a look at a little bit of where I'm at. I'm in the top 20 still. Okay. So, like, the tempo is okay. It's a little bit slowing down on my side. I'm getting hit, which means that my placement is going to flex. It's going to move around a bit. So, what can we do? Continue the pacing. I mean, I have to get to a point where I'm comfortable with these defenses. So, the ideology was that, like, I'm not going for more hits or more fights in general. It's too early anyways. My goal is to maintain my positioning. Communication was given about certain targets and whatnot, and you know, I'm trying to take feedback as I get it, and, you know, basically just camaraderie with my clan to kind of be effective. So, like, all right, I'm going to try this defense out. And I made a mistake, and this is another blunder on my end, where I didn't see that the immunity was on these targets. So I was like, you know what? I made the mistake. There's only one HP burn, which means that the effectiveness of the stock comp is not there. I tried to see if maybe I can make this a victory regardless, but then, you know, I was like, you know what? Let's not waste time. Let's go back into that fight with a different team structure. So I went back and I was like, you know what? We're going to bring back the Embrys comp. So I kind of bounced between these two quite a bit. And looking at it, it's like, okay, well, if they have like a bunch of immunity, then that explains what we're looking for there. I kind of skip forward a little bit and go, you know, take some revisions, or I took a look at some of my builds. So like that's my way of doing that for the sake of recording. We came back to the fight after a little bit of evaluation. So it's like, okay, I'm gonna go back with this team. We're gonna run this one down. We're gonna try to analyze if we can take this effectively. So at that point, I went in and we are here. So the idea is we want to land full strip. We didn't. We were unsuccessful. Okay, a little bit of a worry. We didn't want to buff up with Marius because of the Queen of Hearts would get active. And luckily enough, or like, you know, healthily enough, we have enough accuracy to kind of strip most of the people. Obviously, going against the Mariska. The Mariska had, she has a lightning cage, so like her stuff ended up getting protected, which is a little unfortunate. Thankfully, with our damage output, we were able to get the entire team killed. Now, fast forward. Okay, we have him down. Now, my thought process is this. I want to make sure that my speed for Shuzan of getting somebody into the fight at the right time when this revive happens is effective. But also, I want to get them low enough so that maybe I can get a free kill with Embrys, which turned out to work out. So I slowed that tempo down a little bit more just to make sure we got there. You get the revive. We got locked out still. That's just to show you how strong Marishka's passive is. And the fact that we just didn't have enough TM, you know, no increased speed, so our Terminator cycle wasn't good enough. We had the opportunity to do the A2 there, but we came up unlucky. I did get an A1 off on the or on the Shuzan to prevent the Nais from getting too active. So I was like, okay, my opportunity to win this and keep this safely for me, I need to get that bozo down. So he's starting to wipe my team. But lo and behold, the passive for Embrys kicked in. So he did big damage, and then the reflect damage cost him. So I went in and started doing some kills on some of the more targets that would be more likely to successfully kill me or bring me down a little bit more effectively. And by that point, the Crixie was pretty low with necrosis stacks. Finished the job. So a bit of a W there, despite having an L of going in with the wrong team at the beginning there of the first fight. So the second fight was my redemption. We got it back. We got the points back, and kind of like a net 0. You can check your offensive logs. If you hit someone, you fail, it shows you how many trophies you lose. And then if you win, it shows you how much you gain. So I did the difference to the two, and pretty much I net 0. So I'm still looking around. And I basically at this point, it's 17 minutes left. So I'm kind of going at this much slower tempo, like, you know, kind of like looking for effective fights. I'm analyzing what I can do for each one. Obviously, we're working off of willpower at this point because it's very, very late. But no excuses. We want to try to find some answers here. So skipping ahead a bit, let's see what else we got. We ended up taking the opportunity to go against another Niame comp, which is kind of what I was wanting to prepare for. Looks like we found one, and I'm not sure if this one was a success or not, so we're going to kind of enjoy this one together. But I noticed that they had no stone, not stone skin, but I noticed they had low blessings, and the only one that had polymorph was the Embry, or the Fabian. So I was like, okay, if they don't have any immunity, then I can go in with the stock comp, and we can kind of expect it. The rule and consensus that you should normally expect with like a Niame is that she's going to go in with 9-piece protection to protect their block damage, which makes it harder for you to get through that defense. So we didn't expect it there, and I didn't truthfully expect it to be on the Marius. So that's at least 2 targets that we can get burns off of, and I took that chance, and like maybe 3 and 4 would also be available. And it ended up turning out to be completely available for everybody. Like everything was like kind of low. I'm still getting hit quite a bit. Baracus was trying to show out on your boy this round, and he definitely had his chance too. But then we kept it looking. I was like, okay, I'm going to hunker down and start focusing and prioritizing some more targets. So Nell is still being addressed pretty effectively on my side, and then also I'm noticing that we're having some decent success with Nais. But in importance is like I'm having mixed experiences with Niame as a defensive approach. So still kind of like, okay, we got something, but we do need to be aware that this is happening. I got locked out this time. And this is the same, I believe this is the same defense that we went against before with the gentleman from MBF. Let's watch it one more time just to make sure. And this is kind of to show you a little bit of like how important RNG is in this game. Yeah, it was the same MBF guy that we ended up having one failed attempt and 1 second attempt at him. So we went in and I ended up boosting. The difference between what happened in the first or the second round fight where I used this exact same comp is that she didn't resist the Terminator reduction. So this round she did, and that could be a 3% outlier. It could be she actually does have the resistance, and I 3%ed on my side the first go round, but that put me on the back end immediately, and that's not good. So I'm automatically starting this fight off in a much more unhealthy approach. This guy happens to have what I believe is the if you pay attention here to the way that the Queen of Hearts move, she did her ally attack ability, which is interesting to open up with, and then she opened up with the A3. I would have done it the other way because you want to buff strip, and then you want to A2, right, to give you more options to work into. But she did it that way, but that means that because you got the double turn there, the only relic that I know of that could do that pretty effectively would be the Chrono Cube. So I noticed that. I was like, okay, cool. Interesting to note. So I'm looking at options there, and I see some of my clannies there, and I'm basically now like, all right, we're down to the last 15 minutes. I had like a 50% chance of success rate using the comp that did technically supposed to work against that. it's too close now. If that player is pushing up in the rankings pretty quickly, pretty effectively, I need to be a little bit more precautious about how I'm attacking. I don't want to give people advantages because I'm failing to succeed at their defenses. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to start looking around, start fishing around for more effective options. So I refreshed and I found this team and I was like, okay, I'm going to ego ante this guy and see if I could beat him at speed. Sure enough, I did. And I noticed that there's not a single bit of immunity. I was like, you know what? That's okay. I actually made the mistake here, and I'm going to pause this for a brief moment. I was actually going to bring in the Gizmac Gallius comp here for this one, since it's a lot of block damage related stuff. But I ended up bringing the OG stock comp, which had to do with Ramantu. So Ramantu got a chance a little bit to shine. Was it game-changing? No, because the most important one here that he needed to lock out actually was the Seek Fund. So missed opportunity there. I don't know if that was a 3% or if it got resisted or maybe even redirected or something happened. So it says debuff blocked. That's for... let's see. We're going to go ahead and play it from here. So that's the strip. So now he's open. We're going to A3 here. He resisted it. So that was actually kind of like, Ramantu, you did me wrong, you know? Thankfully, with Gizmac, as long as HP burns are still in play, he didn't have his immunity. So I think if he had immunity, he probably would have won this defensive fight, believe it or not. But thankfully, it didn't. It didn't go that way. So I took my victory, went home with it, and I was like, you know what? Let's not use that comp anymore. Let's go around. And this is actually something like feedback for myself. I need to organize my my presets so that I can get to certain teams a little bit more effectively. There's some in the middle that I don't really use at the moment, and I need to adjust it so that I'm my more user at the top end and the less user at the bottom end, and I'm going to have to restructure that myself. Plan feedback for you guys. If you want to make it a little bit easier, give us the option to manage our presets and move them accordingly. Like, I believe it's in some of the other modes, you can actually just change the position of your presets. I would love for that to be an option across the board for a lot of areas of the game. Just for quality of life, you know, organizational purposes. So, yeah, something for feedback. All right, so I went into this fight right here, and I went against 3 lightning cages, all 3 of which stopped Embrys from getting his successful strip. And then fast forward, we went with Marius for round 2 of this, and I was like, okay, we're in play. I saw the same thing. I saw the necrosis stacks on this one, so I was like, you know what? I'm going to flip into the Marius, give him as many buffs as I can, do the extra turns however I can. I did have a moment there where I believe the... when I did the Fear here, it actually got redirected. So that's Wand, I believe. A Wand procced on the Marishka, which pushed it back onto my Embrys. That's a dangerous circumstance, because if I try to flip here, which is one of the main things I wanted to do... and it failed, I would have actually lost this turn, and then she could have possibly got her turn. Which means I may have needed to consume Gallius' turn, and you see how turn meter is at the moment on my team. Could have been a bit of an issue, so I was like a little worried about that, you know? I didn't want that to be a problem. So I went in, thankfully I got my extra turn here. I didn't get the kill, and that actually concerned me. So we still had what the problem was there happen. And that was like, this doesn't feel good, Mr. Stark. So I did my flip, I got my hit in, and now revive. How do I play this out? So he got the revive off because that was the next ability that was left on cooldown. And then where are we at? So I can't do anything else besides an A1, so I threw it at the only target I could do. I did an A1 here with Marius, which did a lot of damage. A shout out to my Marius. And in the speed ranges that he's currently in, it's actually not as comfortable, but it's not too bad either. So I got like a semi-decent there. Remember, we used the Soul Reproc earlier in the last round, so it's on cooldown. So these guys are still up and running. Thankfully, the Nais ended up doing his A3 there instead of the A2, which means that my ability to survive is still possible. So he did the transformation with the Ashnar, which caused a counterattack proc. We didn't get any enfeeble on the Nais, which means there's possibility for a counterattack, which it looks like it didn't. And I'm not sure why. I think it's because it's a counterattack from Marius. It's not actually like an active turn from Marius. So it didn't trigger the Nais, I believe. I think that's the reason why. But it allowed us to get our opportunity to get back into the fight with the Ashnorn, or the Embrys. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go ahead and kill these 2 guys, get them out of there, and hopefully we get like a lock, which we did. We're still taking a lot of damage, which is kind of concerning. So I did the A3. This is another deficit of like Marius or my Gallius not being as effective, but they're starting to get revived. So this is really, really bad now. I went for the A3. And then I believe right here, I tried to do a little bit of health swap. I did get a health swap there. Still didn't get enough damage on this. So like this is kind of like looking very dangerous now. Okay, A2, they killed them. Now I'm losing more and more. They got the revive. It's like, oh my god, what do I do? So I did the A1 again, try to see if I get another kill. Embrys just isn't cleaning up. So now we're at the point now where it's like, okay, what do I do? So we did the A2 there. I'm trying to survive, and it wasn't enough. So I ended up losing that one. I think we can come back with that fight and maybe have a much better experience. I just need to make sure my Embrys is a little bit more oomph, you know, to kind of clean that up. But that was just it. That was like a little bit of a loss there. I kind of want to show with you guys these videos that there's gonna be times where I'm successful, sometimes I'm not successful, but like the mental focus that comes from that is really, really important. You want to stay on top of just like keeping a good positive mindset during this fight. Like I was like, man, dang, that sucked. That loss was like, it was pretty rough, you know? So, okay, let's try to get back into it. So I'm rinsing and repeating, going back into the fight there, even despite having some losses there. And I believe I lost that fight too. I think that was against Simic. So I lost that one. I was like, okay, all right, I need to slow down and look at my options a little bit more effectively. So we ended up taking other options. I want to actually see before we go into this fight. We're down to the last final 10 minutes. This is where rapid fire becomes super important. Now I need to hit targets that I know I can win against, because our goal is to push ourselves. What's going to happen here is anybody that sees me as a viable target for them to hit, they're going to just start running it down on me. And they're basically going to just try to kill me off cooldown. And get their points as best they can. And I, in turn, am going to do the same for my targets. So basically, I'm going to go down and up at the same time. So I'm either going to net 0, or I'm going to go up or down to based on the pacing of the enemies hitting me and my effectiveness against enemies. The thing is that there's more enemies that are fighting me than there are me fighting others, you know? So there's only one of me and there's many of enemies, right? So the goal now is to like, all right, Crank, let's get to it. So, you start seeing us. I'm going to start getting a little bit more on top of things. I'm trying to maintain some, like, don't get too hasty. Don't pick the wrong team defense. Like basically, let's tempo ourselves, but let's pick up the pacing a bit. So, I went to the Gizmat comp this round. I want to make sure I get some pretty good damage off and kill and sustain this fight pretty well. This one right here, I saw only one lightning cage. I was like, okay, maybe there's not too many immunities or anything like that. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go ahead and go A2 here. Get in there, and we use the Gizmat comp, right? Now, I made a mistake there, and I actually buffed before flipping, and basically like a dud on my end for not using, doing that while the Marius is still in play. So, a big drawback on that one, and that did cause a little bit extra damage, and I could have gotten enfeebled there. That was really, really, really risky. But thankfully, we got enough damage. We popped the revive, and then, we cleaned up with Gallius. So Coxus Maximus came in. We actually did what we had to do. So I see some other targets, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm checking to see where the position is. Now I'm getting hit. I'm getting some wins too, which is actually really, really cool. I'm noticing hookah in my defenses quite a bit. So I screenshot that. I wanted to see if maybe I would review that later or something around those lines to see why the constant onslaught from that one. Regardless of wins or losses, why does it feel like maybe Erodos is a viable target into me? So that was what I was looking at when I screenshot that. And I'm just fast forwarding. Okay, see targets. I think Joker. I was like, okay, Joker has a 3-star blessing on the what is that, Galathier, and the rest are all kind of pretty decently beefed up. I did see only one LC on the Marius, which we don't expect him to be inside a immunity type build. So, like, okay, we're expecting Stone Skin. Maybe he has the Lightning Cage for the Embrys style comps, but thankfully we have the other option, which is with Gizmat. So, same thing. We're going to flip. We're going to do some damage. We're going to go ham. I didn't buff this time, so good. Got our kills there. He's really, really low on the far right side. I don't know if you noticed. So I was like, okay, well, let me get rid of the biggest issue, which is the revive on the Marius. Well, fast forward, we got back to the turn there, and they got, yet again, the revive. So I got to do another rotation of damage. So I did the buff, another mistake. I wanted to make sure my Gallius is ready to go. So instead of flipping, I'm going to go A2 here so we can get rid of everybody, and then I'm going to do big damage, right? Got a big kill there. He's still active, so reduce the turn meter. Now we flip, and we're going to just kind of basically, okay, I need to do damage here. He already revived once, so that's not a problem. The goal is just to beat him down before he gets too many turns to revive again. Worked out for us. We got the victory. Okay, looking around, I see some SP. I saw Panda. I think I should have given him a little bit of a hit there now that I'm looking at it. But, like, it's the last 10 minutes, so I'm like, okay, what am I doing? Let's play it safe. Let's do another refresh, see what we get there. Okay, I see maybe some potential targets. Let's go ahead and start hitting into these. So you'll see it. We're gonna basically go in there. I see the +3. That kind of almost deterred me for a minute, but it's like, okay, she has a 1-star missing on her awakening. I think we eventually do go in and hit someone here. Let's see. The Volcanos in that other team there was like kind of like a, oh man, that's kind of interesting. I think I have an answer for that next time now that I'm thinking about it in hindsight, but I went in, I was like, okay, I see the Cricks here. We got to watch out for them being faster, but I was like, maybe we got it. We do. We actually have a pretty hefty amount of speed. We got the Terminator reduction. We got the buff strip. Basically, now my team is ahead of their enemy team. No Mario, so I could buff freely. Flip. We're going to give them some big sauce. Big damage comes in. Got the kills. Aspect of Syrup proc and a reaction proc. So I was like, okay, that's kind of tough. Let me inject back into him again. We're going to keep doing some damage there. Got the kill. We're going to get the revive on death. We got Life Harvest proc from the Gallius, which means I'm guaranteeing my turn. Buffing again, flipping, and then A3 to get the victory. So this right here means I already won. Now I just need to kind of get through it with the rest of my squad because Crixia by herself is not as much of a threat as with a Gallius or somebody who can kind of keep the team alive or give them back their damage outlets, you know? So we got that victory. We're moving on to the next one here. This one, there's a possibility that a Lightning Cage Seek Friend build is going to have Feral in it, so, you know, we're going to see immunity perhaps, so maybe using that with 2 other immunities or something along those lines could be a problem. Hindsight's 2020, obviously they didn't, so I could have went with the Gizmat comp, but a bit dangerous to do considering that he did have, whatchamacallit, the Feral build into the Seek Friend. So I was like, okay, this comp is definitely the way to go. We're going to do the A2s here. We got some kills. I'm going to play into the Necrosis yet again, so I just did the A1 there. To give some more damage, and if it wasn't enough, then hopefully Necrosis does the job. Thankfully, it wasn't enough, so we killed him. Okay, fast forward, we got another team here. I was like, okay, this one's going to be a Gizmac one. I see only 1 Lightning Cage, and then, you know, some other stuff. So I was like, okay, cool. This looks like we have an answer for this one. Also, it was kind of a little bit of a W there because they did have a Volcardia cart, so I was very happy to see that. We got the flip because Marius, no buffing. A2. Big damage, got the kills that we wanted. We're going to have a full revive. And now it should be another A1, and we got the kill. So I could have A3 there. I just wanted to get more onslaught of damage. I think we were guaranteed to have a chance to have Gallius get his turn because of the Life Harvest proc. But just in case, just do some extra layer of damage to get the Gallius low. So when I do pop with the Gizmax, so that when Gallius does go in, I got the victory. So I had that like prepared in terms of like the structure of my timing of the team and all that stuff like that, but it was still like you don't want to assume that it automatically is a victory because anything can happen, right? So you have to be, when you're going to put your foot down, you need to put it down with authority. So all right, we're fast forwarding into this one. The great thing about this comp that I'm using against nail comps is that we're going in predominantly with a lot of stone skin. So nail procs are only going to happen on the ones that don't. I can buff freely because I'm still with stone skin, which means that I still have everything I need at my disposal to use kit wise, which allows us to do a lot of damage there. They did get their turn with the Gallius, which is a little bit unforeseen. And we also had another hiccup yet again with Gallius getting his turn after the Marius. And I'm going to actually go back a little bit here. Another temporal change, and I wonder if that's what's causing the proc to happen. So we did do the A3 there, and we actually took what he had for his block debuffs, and we actually turned it into a negative because Necrosis was in play. And that's a part of what, if you read his ability, if Necrosis is in play, it's irresistible. So that was really, really cool. I injected back into the Marius because I was going to make sure that I proc the Nais. Even if I don't kill the Nais there, when we do the counterattack going into the next round, he's going to be pretty freaking low. So the chances of me killing him, especially since I have increased defense and increased crit damage, was very likely. We did the A2 going into the Marius. I'm going to A2 here, I believe. Or I'm just going to flip immediately. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and just A2 right off the rip. We did some big damage there. Nais is still active. And I had to pick between one or the other, so I went to lock him. Thankfully, with the Necrosis X, I kind of had that. I think I did, if memory serves me correctly, I did have that in mind. It's like, okay, she's really low. If I could keep him from getting his turn to block debuff or whatever, or block damage, I have the opportunity to be able to get back into this fight and do the damage I need to do. Thankfully, with Gallius at that point, with the decreased defense and the big slam, we had everything we needed to kind of clean that up. So good. We're down to 3 minutes and 37 seconds. I could disappear so you could see it, which means that like we need to find a target. So I'm browsing around trying to get some clears, and I think I went into this one and I think I made a mistake somewhere. I'm not entirely sure, but we had a little bit of a hiccup where I think we just didn't have enough damage output, perhaps. I don't remember exactly what happened in this one in particular, but I should have went in with the other one, the Marius Embrys comp, and I think I would have had a different experience. However, fast forward, they get the counterattacks off, and they end up. I think we end up losing this one, especially since there's a swift parry proc on the. Yeah, I think there's a swift parry proc on the Marishka there, so that costed me the fight. I'm down to the last 2 minutes. Like, all right, let me just skip ahead to another target there, and let me prep this up a little bit more effectively. And it basically, I made that mistake of like picking the wrong team. So fast forward, I was like, all right, let me just move on to another one really quickly that I felt like I could do real fast, and that's what I ended up doing. Not seeing a single stone skin or anything on the Marishka was very bold of this defense, by the way. So we decided to go in. He looks like he had reaction proc, so I guess more power to him. It worked out in his favor. He's still alive. I did the A3 there. Who did I inject there? I think I went for the A1 so I could do the buffs here, and I wanted to save her kit going into this next round. I'm going to A2. I think that's going to force proc him to flip. I got to have Marius here on this side, which is going to allow me to kill the full team. I'm going to A1 again, which gives me another kill there. We got the revive off. I think I have my A2 here, so now I can A2 again with Gallius, which kills everybody. And then now it's Embrys' turn, so I'm playing into Necrosis this round. I believe I do that. So everybody takes a little bit of damage. We got some fears along the way. I'm going to flip. I did get wanded yet again, so another little bit of good RNG on my side. I think it was on... Let's see who it was on. It was on the Naive. So the Naive's got a successful proc, but it didn't stop me. So good RNG on my end. Got another A2, and then, of course, Necrosis finished up the job there. And thankfully, we got the victory there. So a little bit of like a nice little back and forth, you know, in terms of like interactions and stuff. I got a minute and a half left, so I was like, okay, we're back here. I saw a lot of polymorph, and I think that made me go. I actually took this boldly, and although despitely risky, and I actually did get a polymorph proc, I went in with my Gizmac comp, so it was a little bit of a mispick here. I probably should have went with the other one. So did the A2. Thankfully, did get polyproc there. I didn't kill the Taras, which I'm surprised he didn't do the counterattack. Maybe he got like a fear proc there. But I had enough damage output. I'm going to go for the A3 here. He ended up doing the A2, which is kind of unfortunate. Now at this point, I'm like, okay, I need to get this Galathier down really, really quickly. So what did I do? I decided to go big buffs. Okay, I'm gonna inject the Gizmac. I'm gonna go for another A2 here. We got the kill, and then I got the kill, and that was pretty nice. If I would have weak hit there, I think the tides would have turned, and I would have lost that fight. So it was a little bit like could have been better. 14 seconds. I got one more fight in me. What can I do? So I was like, okay, I'm gonna just take this and we're gonna go in. And basically, it was like a last second. You know, if I could clear this one up within the next minute or so, I have the answer. I have the victory. So I'm flipping. I'm basically trying to tempo this like super quickly so I can get one more victory in under the belt for my placement. We got the kill. 50 seconds still left on the clock. I got the kill again. I inject the Galley since he's going to have his full kit. Flip over one more time. And also since there is a Force Affinity champion there, got the victory. And then I pulled up the document to show that, yeah, we're done. It's 4 o'clock on the dot, and that's game. So, all that to say that we had a pretty interesting experience. I think I even said it. I slowed down quite a bit at the end there. And I felt good, though. Definitely need to see some improvements still in the Gallius. And I think I said that. Need to keep growing, yeah. And this is me trying to be humble over here. But basically, I just do as best I can. And let's see how I did. So, fast forward to where we are now at the very end of this. I think this is the last little part. Let's see. Yeah, what ended up happening is we ended up pushing into 24th place, which is not too bad. Still not my personal best. My personal best is like 19. But nevertheless, we did pretty good there. So, the effort should be like, okay, how can I do better next time? That's basically the long and short of what I'm going to say here. I'm going to kind of leave the rest of this video for the raw footage. If you want to check that out, I'm going to have a link somewhere for you guys to watch. And that's kind of like one of the reasons why I like having the recordings of my raw footage of the fight to see like, okay, what can I do for next time? What can I do to improve this? And yeah, we're gonna go into revision. I really don't know what else could be the causing problem for the turn meter change on positioning for the Embrys and the Marius. That's kind of weird. That's happening quite a bit. But I would assume that like, it shouldn't proc starting off the fight because they're only coming in with 1, 2, 3, buffs up. And I feel like that shouldn't have been the case. I don't know exactly what it is. But regardless, and also them being under stone skin, they shouldn't get turn meter reduction while they're under stone skin, from what I understand. So, like, it's kind of weird. I don't know. Maybe you guys know in the comments below. But with that being said, I had a pretty successful, what I would say, pretty decent experience overall. I was able to hit some big targets, also keep myself in a pretty good position, not just toss my lead and my growth in a bad way. We did pretty good in that regard, so I can't complain. With that being said, you guys let me know what you think about this experience. This is another commentary that we want to do for you guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and as always remember, stay ascended.